I tested Spotify's discovery mode feature for 3 consecutive months in 2023. And when reviewing the data inside of my Spotify for Artists account, before using that feature, during that process, and then afterward, the patterns that have emerged have been interesting. Now for context, I am filming this video on November 29th of 2023. So for all intents and purposes, I used discovery mode for basically a quarter of the year. And for the rest of the year, I didn't use it at all. Now I ran those campaigns in the months of June, July, and August of this year. And I decided to stop using that feature after the August campaign because I wanted to see what would happen if I turned it off. And also because the results while using it were actually not that great. Now the impetus for making this video is this big bump in my data over the last 28 days right here. On Monday of last week, which was Monday, November 20th, I got one of the biggest Discover Weekly spikes I've gotten in a long time. And in context, we'll see over the past year, it's actually the second largest Discover Weekly spike I've gotten all year. Now, the reason this spike is so interesting is not because of the amount of listeners, the amount of streams I got last Monday, but because of what was happening inside of my account before that. Now, if we zoom out to include all my data from this calendar year, January 1st through today of 2023, we can see the patterns that emerge specifically as a result of using discovery mode. So starting in the first 5 months of the year, you can see that I was consistently getting variable sizes of Discover Weekly spikes. Some were pretty big. Here I have 2,400 listeners per day. Here I have 3,000 listeners per day. And if we switch over to streams, you can see 3,200 streams, 4,300 streams. And that trend sort of continues off and on all through the end of May. But if we open this up and we look at June, July, and August, when I was actually running discovery mode, you can see that the big peaks basically stopped happening. I started discovery mode in June. So June 1st is when it first started to run. So if we look at June 1st all the way through to the end of August, you can see that the spikes basically leveled off and started to get much smaller. And then if we zoom out all the way to include the data through today, you can see that when I stopped using discovery mode, Spotify effectively punished me for doing so. Not only did I get even lower Discover Weekly spikes, but I started to get just a lower overall volume of streams for basically 2 months after I turned off discovery mode. Now, almost 2 months to the day, I got my first sort of, we'll call it more substantial Discover Weekly spike than I had had in a long time. And that was on Monday, October 30th, where I had 1,700 streams. And then in context, the spike I just got this past Monday at almost 4,000 streams is the second highest spike I've had all year, second only to the one that was just over 4,000 streams. Now, as a small to medium artist, for me, Discover Weekly is very important. It's where I have generated a lot of streams for my catalog over the past several years. And what I think has happened here is that when I started to use discovery mode inside of Spotify for Artists, Spotify effectively traded one for the other. So it started prioritizing streams from radio instead of Discover Weekly because they can take a 30% cut of the radio streams. And then when I stopped using discovery mode altogether, the algorithmic understanding of my music on Spotify was actually worsened by discovery mode. And then it took a couple of months to clean up before the algorithm started to understand who my core audience was and deliver music to them more readily through Discover Week. Now, outside of discovery mode, the primary way I've used to promote my music all year has been with Facebook ads. I spent the exact same amount of money every single day at $10 a day throughout the entire year. And I've adjusted targeting just a little bit here and there, but for the most part, the main features of that campaign have remained the same, which means all of the variability here in my data on Spotify is due to factors on Spotify itself rather than inside of my ad campaign, which I further take to mean discovery mode had an adverse effect on my artist profile and on the growth of my catalog for several months, for basically 5 months out of this entire year. It's only been within the last month or so that I've started to get more traction, sort of like I was used to getting back at the beginning of the year. Now, I'm sure somebody out there has had an excellent experience with discovery mode. Me personally, I'm probably not going to use it again. I don't think it's for me. I don't really think it moves the needle that much. Of course, results may vary. So I'm not telling you not to use discovery mode. I'm not telling you to use discovery mode. All I'm doing is sharing my experience with it and explaining why I won't be using it in the future. Now, at the end here, if you want to check out my previous video when I just finished running my discovery mode campaign, then you can watch that right here. And as always, thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.